you may be wondering, you know, my Valentines. Well, as I read the lectionary for this week, I thought, oh, this is perfect. Valentine's Day is just around the corner. And it's that special day that we set aside to acknowledge the affection for those that we care about. So my mom always sends me antique Valentines because she knows I like old stuff. And so over the years, she roots through antique shops and she finds these Valentines and sends them to me. You know, and some of them are, you know, have names on the back. Some of them are worn by years of wear, but she knows I love them. And so I know she makes a special effort to go to those places to find special Valentines for me. And I keep this one in my Bible, and it was one of the last that my husband gave me when he was still healthy. And it reflected our ranching lifestyle. And it says, I love you, my horse loves you, happy Valentine's. And you know, at Valentine's Day, sometimes we give gifts, and my son gave me this one. He thought that this was appropriate. It makes some noise somehow. Oh, yeah, here it is. Maybe not so much anymore. It's got a few, and it's got the dust that, you know, shows that it's been around for a while. And there are many other ways that we show our care for the people in our lives. As showing that we care is big business. According to Niall McCarthy in Forbes magazine, few countries take February 14th as seriously as the United States. And in 2015, the average American spent $142.31 on gifts. Men spent twice as women, with the overall sales amounting to a whopping $19 billion. 4.8 of that billion was on jewelry. 3.6 was spent on date nights. Well, just 2.1 billion was set aside for flowers. And then we also, you know, honor our children and teachers and other folks. And somewhat bizarrely, 21.2% of Americans spent a grand total of $703 million on Valentine's Day gifts for their pets.
Oh my goodness.
But it's just one day of the year. And really, how we treat people the other 364 days truly indicates our affection for them. And if you're actually like me, and who doesn't do a very good job of getting cards out, if that would be an indicator of my affection, that's good that I have 364 other days and it doesn't require a card. My affection cannot be measured by my actions on those special holidays. And most of us say, oh, I know he cares. I know the kids care. You know, they understand. But I'm reading this book called The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. I picked it up at an airport somewhere, and it's not exactly a fast read, so I've been reading it for quite a while. And she quotes this Pierre Reverdy, who said, there is no love. There's only proofs of love. So whatever I feel in my heart, others only see my actions. And so what are those proofs of love that we share with other people in our lives? You know, maybe it's a hug, maybe it's a kiss, maybe you are considering their feelings or thoughts, listening to them, being a compassionate listener, as you said, making an extra effort to do the things that they really like or want. One of the things that she talked about in her book, one of her goals was to have an extreme nice week. And she was nice to the extreme. So even when her husband would do things like throw a magazine that she hadn't read in the garbage can, she said, you know, I cautioned, or you know, I put a damper on it, bit my tongue, and she said she was so relieved after that week was over because she said, you know, basically the insides of her lips were from biting them, from saying things. But you know what? There are many things that we do, and it actually in that she gave a statistic that 47% of people are more apt to feel close to a family member who often expresses affection than they do to those who rarely do. So, you know, that's really important to most people. And it is such a wonderful and natural thing to be loved. And I can't imagine what life would be without the wonderful feeling. I grew up in an extended family where I had grandparents and aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers, and we were all somewhat nearby, and we enjoyed each other's company. And I had a loving little community of 50 people, you know, and then I had a church that I grew up in.
And then I came to Oregon, and I married into a family that loves each other. And I found this wonderful, loving church. And I became a part of a professional community. And that security of acceptance is powerful, and it's a joyous thing. But being part of a loving community isn't always easy, a loving relationship. And there are times that you don't necessarily like each other. And there are sometimes the people that you love the very most abuse you, or they don't reciprocate your care, and there are disagreements over decisions. And when someone that you love says something hurtful, it hurts more than when a stranger utters an unkind word. And then sometimes people just forget the things that are important to you. Loved ones leave us, whether it's by choice or not by choice. And most of us in the room can think of painful situations involving people that we love. And yet most of us would not trade a life devoid of loving relationships to avoid the pain that comes with loving. Because loving is part of our Christian upbringing. The first Sunday school verse that I think I learned was, God is love. And in fact, that piece of information, I had a partner, my Dave, in fact, that he wrestled whether there could possibly be a God or not, because he was of a scientific mind. And as we conversed and talked about this, the only thing that he couldn't find an explanation for is love. Because whether you believe in the Big Bang Theory or evolution or any of those other kind of things, what does loving have to do with it? And so he believed that love, maybe that was the thing that would nudge him over the edge to believe that there was a God, and that Christianity wasn't so far-fetched. But even with the challenges of these that we have in these relationships with people that we love, this is the easy part in the lessons of love that God taught us. And the gospel lesson for today tells us that it is not enough to love our friends and our families, but that we need to love our enemies. So Luke 6:27. But I say to you that here, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, and pray for those who abuse you. Oof. To him who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your coat as well. Give to everyone who begs from you. And of him who takes away your goods, do not ask them again. And as you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. For if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Because even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the selfish, and be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. So, it's really easy to talk about Valentine's Day and loving my kids, but this one's hard, because I can do pretty good with my family and friends. And I have my moments of jealousy, or I get miffed, or, but I struggle with this whole process of loving my enemies and loving people that don't treat me well. I struggle because maybe in this world we're taught to take care of number one. And maybe that's survival. Okay, we can blame it on genetics and that survival of the fittest. But I think that what our world has taught us is that, it's up to you to take care of yourself, because there are people who want what's mine. Not because they need my television, but because it's easier to break into my house and take it than it is to work for it. There are people who take advantage of the unsuspecting in scams or con games because they want to profit from them. When I filed my taxes 2 years ago, sent it in, and it got kicked back and said somebody had already filed taxes in my name. So I had to go through a number of steps to prove that, no, I was this was me. Well, they got an undeserved tax refund, and I have a number of years of worrying about how my identity theft might eventually affect my financial status. There are too many people who are violent and will murder or maim, not because I've transgressed against them, but because they're angry with the world. And I can't help but think of mass murderers, we Thurston, Columbine, all these different places, and they didn't have an axe to grind with those individuals that they killed. They were just unhappy or wigged out on drugs. And I think closer to home, I had a 4-H kid once called Becca Harkins. She was a runner, and she was out running country roads, and somebody picked her up who was on meth and murdered her. And I think about Sherry Papini, the one that's in the news, who was, I think, in Reading and was out running on a jog, and somebody kept her and abducted her and kidnapped her for a period of time. And I think, okay, that makes me scared, and what's the motive? I don't want to believe that there are so many people out there and that randomness is it's rampant, They just don't have any care for human life. And there are also too many big entities with no faces, like corporations and government, who seem to have no regard for the little guy. I think about Donald Trump and his campaign about, the little guy and all that, watching out for, the common man. But, ultimately we're taught to take care of ourselves. This story came over the internet a number of years ago, and it's always stuck with me, and I dug it out. And again, it was about the big guys trying to take advantage. And it was that my daughter and I had just finished a salad at Neiman Marcus Cafe in Dallas and decided to have a small dessert. And because our family are such cookie lovers, we decided to try the Neiman Marcus cookie. It was so excellent that I asked for the recipe. And they said with a small frown, well, I'm afraid not. And well, I said, would you let me buy the recipe? And with a cute smile, she said, yes. And I asked how much, and she responded, $2.50. And I said, with approval, just add it to my tab. Okay? 30 days later, I got my Visa statement from Neiman Marcus, and it was $285. I looked again, and I remembered that I'd spent $9.95 for the salad, about $20 for a scarf. And as I glanced at the bottom of the statement, it said cookie recipe, $250. Boy, was I upset. And I didn't realize when she said $250 that she meant $250 for a cookie recipe. And I asked them to take back the recipe and reduce my bill, and they said they were sorry. But because all the recipes were this expensive, so not just anybody could duplicate their recipes, the bill would stand. I waited thinking of how I could get even or even try to get my money back. And I just said, okay, you folks got my $250, and now I'm going to have $250 worth of fun. I told her that I was going to see to it that every cookie lover will have a $250 cookie recipe from Neiman Marcus for nothing. And she replied, I wish you wouldn't do this. And I said, I'm sorry, but this is the only way I feel I could get even, and I will. So here it is, and please pass it on to someone else or run a few copies. I paid for it, and now you can have it for free. Anyway, and I thought, it is about the big guys and protecting yourself and revenge. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about that, and I probably would be pretty disgusted if it was my Visa